the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 133, recorded Saturday, March 8th, 2014. Why Crestron?
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. Hello, I'm your host. With us this week is Mr. Todd Anthony Puma. Todd is from the Source Home Theater. Hello, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Also with us is Mr. Josh Stackhouse. Josh is from AMS. Hello, sir.
How you doing?
Good. And last but not least, Ronnie Anne Spang. Ronnie is the smartest AV programmer that I know. How are you, ma'am?
Oh, that's thank you for setting me up with such a high. I don't know if I can live up to that.
No, you can't. She's in California. It's a little early there, so we have her nice, pretty picture there, and no video yet. So that's all right. This week we have a number of different stories. First of all kinds of chaos and confusion and selling and getting rid of people and all kinds of craziness going on. You could possibly design the Infocom 2014 show T-shirt and get some free ones for you and your family. And also, Geffen has a new product that we'll talk about the product, but also talk about maybe a little bit more what it means and see what else we can put on the network. But first, as our buddy Ted Green puts it, commotion at Kaleidescape. Just because I like alliteration. There's been some shakeup at Kaleidescape, and basically there's some high-ranking folks that are no longer there. According to Ted, they were both told that both Michael Malcolm and China Servicen, two of the original founders of Kaleidescape, were tied up in meetings and not available in the afternoon to speak to them. But a number of people are talking about the shakeup at Kaleidescape. First of all, Josh, we'll go with you on this one. For end users or for dealers, what does this ultimately mean? Is it no big deal because it's a shakeup at the top, or is it a huge deal because it may mean a shift in the way Kaleidescape is going to work in the future?
Well, first of all, I have to say that this is actually the first that I've heard of Kaleidescape as a company, because I'm still the rookie of the industry. I'm the voice of the guy that's just started working in the industry. So I actually had to ask my boss who Kaleidescape was. But once he explained it to me and I kind of had an understanding of the company, I started to think about it. And, I have an IT background, so I'm kind of drawing from that. But generally when top CEOs and top executives start to kind of run around and leave organizations, it usually means that there's internal chaos and that there's differences of how things should be ran, and that somewhere someone's not happy and they usually want to go do their own thing. I mean, take a look at Golden Ear, for example. Golden Ear is a great example of a company that was started because the people inside weren't happy and they went on and did their own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Ronnie, does this mean a shift in the way Kaleidescape is going to work, and if so, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't even think Kaleidescape is going to know exactly how this is going to affect them. All that we know, I don't really know the people that left personally, so I can't comment on what they brought to the table. I don't know who's going to be replacing them personally, so I can't comment on their style of leadership either. And even if we did know the people personally, there's still the question of how are they going to react to this new situation. Kaleidescape has for years built an excellent server. It's my favorite. I've said so unabashedly so in the past. It's durable, reliable, and obviously something is changing, and that could be good, it could be bad. I think it's too early to tell.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Puma, where does this put you? As you are our purveyor of high-end home theater systems. Where do you think this puts folks like you and other people who may spec Kaleidescape in the future?
To be honest with you, I think this is an internal issue that shouldn't have gotten out to the public, because changes are being made, people are moving. It's honestly, it's just drama. It's something that I don't care about. The product is what I do care about. And if they have engineers there still, they still have people that are fighting in the trenches, which I think they matter the most. It's not always the VP or the executives that always matter. It's the people who are in the trenches fighting the battle every day and figuring out solutions and speaking with integrators like Eric, for example. There's been changes that happened there before. There's been powerhouses that left that company before. Did it make anything worse? Did it make anything better with the newer people coming in? I can't say, but you know what? They're still around. They're still moving forward, and I think they're going to be a staple in the industry for a long time. Good
point. And yeah, that's the thing is Kaleidescape's made some really great inroads when it comes to video on demand and video over IP and the ability to stream and download Blu-ray movies, honestly, and that capability is something that they've fought tooth and nail for. So another interesting split, I guess. 8 years after acquiring Lake Forest, California-based Audio Visions, Best Buy has parted ways with the high-end custom organization firm Audio Visions. This is from our friends over at CE Pro. First thing I thought of when I saw this is Best Buy has an integration firm. Interesting, and it's something I knew in the back of my head, but I honestly had forgotten the fact that they had done this. Ronnie, is this okay? First of all, why are they separating? I mean, does Best Buy know something that maybe the rest of us don't? That are they maybe cutting some of the fat and saying, we don't want to be in the integration firm anymore, or because they see something that maybe the rest of us don't? Or are they just cutting ties with something that doesn't quite make sense for their business?
I think it's more the latter, because Best Buy isn't a high-end dealer, and I think this was an attempt by them to become more appealing to a higher-end client. But the higher end is a smaller niche, and it needs more of a custom solution. It doesn't really fit a box seal. We can't fit custom high-end into a box. And I know that Best Buy also gained a lot of traction with the middle class because of the expertise that Audio Visions brought to them through the Magnolia home theater suggestions, that I think it was actually a good idea. A lot of what Best Buy needed to do was find a way to keep people from going to the showrooms and then buying online at the lowest price. And the way to do that is to make price less of an issue than quality, support, and service. So I think Best Buy's choice of going with an integration was probably wise, and Magnolia does give them an entry point into integration. So that's probably where it made sense. I think where they discontinued it, and again, this is speculation, but I never really saw high-end custom fitting box sale. Custom, really, I mean, I come from the old school, well, I wouldn't say old school because I only worked at Renkes Heinz 10 years ago, but Renkes Heinz custom builds speakers to order. My idea of high-end isn't to buy an off-the-shelf product. It's to go to a site, do a quality site survey, ease model the site, and custom build a solution that's going to fit that site exactly what it needs. And that's not going to work picking products up off the shelf, regardless of how good those products may be. And so I think that did give Best Buy a step into the mid-range of home theater and residential, and even somewhat commercial. They got some respect and some credibility.
Yeah.
Audiovision seems to think they benefited immensely. So it was a win-win, and, I think maybe now it might not be anymore.
That's a good point. The fact that maybe it just doesn't fit either company's model anymore. Josh, is this what is this going to affect Audiovisions, and if so, what way?
Well, I mean, the way I view this is before I worked for AMS, I worked for the now going out of business American Television, which is in several different states here in the Midwest. And they competed directly with Best Buy. And so Best Buy's business model has always been based on the low price. They compete with Walmart, they compete with Amazon, they do price matching. And, I work now for a company that's a custom integrator. And, we choose to try as much as possible to pick products that have MAP pricing. Because when it comes to custom integration, the MAP pricing protects your bottom line. I see Todd's nodding up and down there on the other end. I mean, MAP pricing is our best friend because we don't want to sell products that someone can go online and basically snipe us on. We don't do that. What we choose to sell is stuff that has good margins on it, that will make us money, that will be a good value for the customer, that'll meet their budget, that'll be rock solid product that'll last. And Best Buy doesn't sell that kind of product. But I can't say that I'm even surprised by this move, because the word on the street is that Best Buy is actually hurting financially. It's been for years, and I think Best Buy could eventually go under. And if anything, this is a good move, and I think the company that was behind Magnolia will be better off having learned from Best Buy about metrics and how to retail their products and stuff like that. I hope that they come back out and they start popping up as brick and mortar stores across the country and kind of give a public face to the AV integration industry that people can then rely upon.
Todd, Josh brings up a really good point, and that's map pricing and the ability to go online and find certain products. There are certain things, and we'll talk about. Crestron did a piece actually on your house, the integration you did at your house. We'll do that in a second. But there are companies out there like Crestron, like Biamp, that you can't go online and get list price, right? You can't find that necessarily online anywhere. So when you do a quote, a bid, nobody's going to take your quote and try to go to Amazon or try to go to B&H or try someplace else like that. How do you make does that go into your decision when you decide to partner with certain companies? Do you look at the fact that nobody can really go out and price shop a Crestron TSW or a Biamp to Sarah, whereas if you're selling Sony Blu-rays or you're selling Sonos or you're selling something else like that, they can actually go out and find this stuff elsewhere and say, well, I can find this projector for X amount of dollars. Does that go into your decision-making process when you decide who to partner with?
Well, absolutely. Our business doesn't go by what everybody else is selling. We go by what our customers are looking for. As a custom integration business, I came from Best Buy. Actually, 8 years ago, when this company started with them, is when I left and started my own business.
Wow.
So I've seen a lot of those transitions happen, and what Best Buy was looking for with Magnolia. Now, with that being said, I also learned that whatever Best Buy is offering, and big box stores like Circuit City at the time, PC Richards, is what I don't want to do. I want to do everything opposite from what they were doing. Again, I did learn a lot from them. I learned a lot about customer service. I made a lot of my mistakes there. So when I started my business, those mistakes weren't being made as much. And when I was picking product lines, I picked product lines that I kind of felt cared about my company and cared about the industry. So price-protected products is important to my company and myself, obviously, because we feel that they're putting extra effort into protecting the line, picking the right integrators or installation companies to sell their products, trainings. They're not just going out there trying to get the mass market. They're allowing us to make those moves. They're allowing us to basically make the decision if their company is going to survive. And it feels like you're being taken care of.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, I want to take care of them back. I want to help them as much as I can. And those companies also seem to care about you a little more. It's not about what you're bringing in. It's actually it's kind of like what you, how can I put this? Like Crestron, we'll use an example. They give every resource to me possible, no matter if I'm bringing in $1 million a year or if I'm bringing in $25,000 a year. They're taking care of me equally. Just like my company, we have the neighbor policy. Every customer gets the same price, no matter who you are or what you have, how long you have worked with us.
Yeah.
Crestron's doing the same thing, and they're making sure that every integrator has the tools in order to make them successful, no matter what position you are. That's what comes with those price protecting products. It comes with more than just here. Sonos, for example. This is a topic I love. Sonos doesn't care who you are. They're going to take care of the Best Buys and all the bigger big box stores versus take care of me. We're going to be treated just like a number. I don't want to be a number. I want to be a little bit more than that.
Well, yeah, and that's... Go ahead, Josh.
If I just want to step up, though, and defend Sonos, because we sell a ton of Sonos, and Sonos has, by far, some of the best customer support, whether you're a customer or a dealer in the industry. I mean, they have an entire team that is literally dedicated to nothing but helping people fix the issues regarding firewalls, antivirus software, and using your Sonos system. Their customer support is on point, and they really know how to be friendly, and they're technically knowledgeable. So I just want to make sure that, I want to add to what Todd was saying, because I know he probably feels the same way. I think he was just making another point about Sonos, and just kind of wanted to inject that.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
No,
go ahead.
I agree. So obviously Sonos is doing a lot of things right to get where they are. And customer service to me is everything. I did hear that support question, and obviously they're doing an excellent job. And I didn't mean it as a personal attack, just using it kind of as an example that when customers are moving in a direction like that and customers are kind of in control of where they could get it and telling you how to run your business, then a professional business is not necessarily needed. Sonos product is kind of like, all right, if I want to go to Target, I go to Target. If I want to come to, an integration company, I'll do that as well. Sonos, I kind of feel, is not in our corner. And again, it's my personal feeling. It doesn't have to radiate with everybody. With Crestron and other brands like Crestron, kind of feel like they are backing us a little bit more and they understand where we're coming from. And in the long run, if we're with them or not with them, I think Crestron kind of wants to keep you doing business with them, while Sonos be like, I'm done. I'm not working with you anymore. Do you really think they're going to give you a call and say, hey, how are you doing? Listen, why did you stop working with us? I personally don't think they would do that unless you were bringing in like astronomical numbers personally. And again, I could be wrong.
No, I agree with you, and I see what you're saying, because the company I work for, we're a Sony dealer, and Sony is a great example of a company that goes out of their way to make sure that as an integrator, that they're basically listening to you, supporting you, and they make their products easy to sell. They provide you materials that make it easy to select the right choice for your customer. They give you a good option set. They make practical engineering decisions that don't break the customer's wallet, and they make rock solid products that they support really well when something does go wrong, which isn't that often. So I get where you're coming from.
Well, and my other point was the fact that something that I've discovered, because I'm newly into the integration side. I came from education about a month or so ago. And something I never really thought of as being a technology manager was there are a number of companies out there that you cannot find just any Joe Schmo, website, whether it's, again, Amazon or B&H, nothing against those companies. I at least Amazon, I buy an awful lot of stuff from. But you can't price shop certain products, right? I mean, you can't go on Amazon and get a Pro 3, a Crestron Pro 3, which is their big Mamajima processor. You can find, on eBay and stuff like that in some reseller places, but you can't buy a brand new one and price shop certain products. And I think that's some of what I was saying is companies like that, like Biamp, who again you can't find list price. I know I've talked with some folks from microphone companies who, their dealers will find on Amazon again products that are way below list price, way below dealer price, and you're not really sure how these guys got a hold of this, but they'll go so far as to buy out the entire stock of somebody who is underselling. Who's underselling a product, just to make sure that their dealers are taken care of. And I think companies like that are important to maintain a relationship with because they're taking care of the dealer and by extension taking care of the end user as well.
Well, I think what it boils down to is that most of the companies that sell their products with map pricing, they understand that they don't want their product to be in the hands of the wrong customer, because there is a wrong customer for a product. They want dealers who are knowledgeable about AV, who are passionate, who have the experience and the knowledge to know whether or not their particular product is the right selection for them, because they don't want to trash their brand.
Yeah.
Good product can be a bad choice for a customer if it's not the right fit for their needs. And I think that's what it boils down to with map pricing, is that essentially, in some cases, it's not just map pricing. In some cases, some companies don't sell to anything but dealers. They have to be certified dealers.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of that because it protects the consumer as well as our pocketbooks.
Yeah,
right. No distribution. Like those companies also that are protected lines, they don't go through distribution. They don't go through the Avids or ADIs or Wave Electronics, because a lot of that means everyone's going to be able to have their hands on it. Now that is going to bring people to sell it on Amazon or sell it on another outlet and get it out there to the mass public. And like Josh was saying, put it in the wrong hands. Again, even dealers sometimes could be the wrong hands. And
yeah,
what we are as an integration business, right, is professionals, and that's what we stand upon, is when a customer comes to me and they hire us, they're looking for my opinion and my knowledge to build a system. Now, customers can give suggestions on what they want, absolutely, because we want to know what they want. But when they start telling me as the integrator what to do and what products to put in and how to put it in, you can't do that without the knowledge.
Yeah.
It's they're taking control, and a lot of times is when a customer takes control, right? It's usually because there are the product lines that aren't protected because they know about it.
Yes.
Now with Crestrons, AMX, and companies like that, customers have no idea what it could do. And that's why they have us come in, and we're able to suggest to them what would fit their needs based on their lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, speaking of product lines that customers know, Sony is in the news again, and this goes back to our buddy Ted Green and Strategy.com. Sony cuts a third of their U.S. staff and closes 20 stores. I almost didn't do this story, and I'll tell you why. It feels like almost every week we're doing a Sony is doing this or cutting back that or rearranging this story. And so here's the first question, and Josh, we'll start with you on this. Are we watching, something that a strategic move by Sony, and this is something good for them to do, or are we watching the slow death of a dinosaur here? I mean, what's going on with Sony?
Well, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is that we work in a capitalist society. There's nothing wrong with capitalism, but I guess my feelings are, I don't think there's anything wrong with a business, even if that business is an international corporation, making strategic decisions to let people go in order to keep the business afloat. See, if Sony was a company that was like let's just say they were as small as like Sonos or Control 4. If they were a smaller company with only, say, like 20-something, 30, 40, 50 people, and someone made a decision that we got to let like 7 people go in order to meet the budgets for this year or something like that, most people wouldn't blink an eye. They'd be like, oh, well, they're just a small business, so this is, just what the way business is ran. But all of a sudden, when you're an international corporation and you do that, then all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, you can't do that because you're so critical to the economy or you're so dependent upon it.
Well, but let's be fair here. Sonos hasn't been around for 40, 50 plus years, and hasn't been integral in the CEA market, in the CS market.
Well, yeah, but just because you've been around for 50 years doesn't mean that you're always going to be king of the product lines.
That's
There's going to be newcomers that are going to challenge you. There's going to be people that want to make. Look at Oppo. Oppo is a great example. Sony was the Blu-ray player company. They invented it. They brought it to the market. They have all the patents for it. That doesn't mean they're the best anymore. I'd put pause here. We are a Sony dealer, so if anyone from Sony is listening, this opinion is my own, not reflective of my employer. However, I would put an Oppo in my house any day of the week over a Sony because it's more robust and it has more features and some of the bit rates are better and everything else that goes along with the geek speak. So that doesn't necessarily mean that just because Sony's been around for 50 years that they're going to be king, and they always should be king. I mean,
no, but I think that's where the story is. Again, my opinion. That's where the story is. The fact that they have been around for forever. And it feels like, a third is still a large amount. Whether it's let's say you have 60 employees and you cut 20, it's still a third. That's still a large amount.
Well, okay, so let me change gears and get to that point.
Okay.
Let me come off the soapbox. Yes, that's a significant amount of employees to let go. But let's look at what happened to Virgin. Virgin Records had the Virgin Mega Record stores forever. Mm-hmm. When I lived in Chicago, I loved going to the Virgin Mega Record store on Michigan Avenue because it was so much fun. It was an experience. But in the age of instant downloads and music, people just went online and they bought the product. What this article is about Sony stores. They're closing 21 of their 30 U.S. Sony stores, and this is not like it's a big surprise. Retail stores are closing all the time.
Yeah.
Retail electronic stores just can't compete with the internet anymore. That's why Circuit City went out of business. Is it really news, or is it just sort of like, it's like, is it link bait?
No, that might be too. So,
what do you think, Todd?
This is a hard topic. What it's going on right now is, like you said, I agree with you, with making moves and backing out of a certain part of their business is not a wrong decision. I think that they're gonna be able to invest more money into what is working for them and making those products better, instead of wasting money on something that isn't really doing that well for them and constantly trying to get it to work. Again, I think it's a good decision on their part. Unfortunately, jobs being lost is always a shame. But again, I think that they're going to be growing in those other areas like the 4K televisions, and whatever other parts they're offering. I don't even know anymore. I don't really follow Sony that much, to be honest with you, and it's a shame.
Well, I think that's also part of the bigger story is that guys like you and Josh is a dealer, but other integrators have gone to other places and just aren't paying attention to Sony. Ronnie, where is Sony going with this? Are they going to be okay, or are we just watching the demise?
Well, actually, to say is Sony going to be okay, this is only affecting their consumer retail chain. Sony has huge divisions, for example, motion pictures, broadcast cameras, broadcast decks. Their security cameras and their video cameras are some of the best in the world, and that's a booming business. CCTV is growing in leaps and bounds, and Sony's leading that. So maybe they're taking some of their focus off on a low-margin, competitive field in consumer and moving it to areas where they are really kicking butt and taking names. When you compare Sony CCTV cameras to Access and Pelco and some of the other players, Sony is one of the best. when you compare Sony's lenses to Panasonic and Arri, Polycom. In fact, I believe Polycom may be sourcing their lenses from Sony. I've heard that, don't know for sure, but Sony is a huge player in imaging, from consumer-grade cameras and camcorders all the way to broadcast, DV cams. Yeah. So their Pro Series DVD players and beta decks have always been one of the staples in professional broadcast studios. So to say, is Sony going under, is, to me, not looking at the big picture of Sony. Maybe their motion pictures are down this year, maybe consumer, they've gotten too big in consumer, maybe they need to focus in some areas and not others. I've been less enamored with their displays of late. I'm tending to prefer the Sharp product for video wall tiling. I like the NEC product, where 10 years ago I really liked Sony displays. And as Joshua pointed out, the Blu-ray, Sony isn't leading there anymore either. Oppo has taken that over. But in other areas, I see Sony grabbing more of the lead. So they're just focusing on what's working. They've done this before. We all thought, oh my gosh, Sony's PlayStation, it was the demise of Sony because the Xbox was better. And, they just made that less of a focus and moved their focus somewhere else.
Yeah, but if you listen to some gamers, this latest generation, the PlayStation has it over the Xbox One now. So, not to get into a gaming
Sony guy right here. Just saying, when it comes to gaming, it's all about the PlayStation.
See, and I'm
I know, I love the Sony PlayStation 4.
See, and I still have an original Xbox. I tend not to buy gaming systems the first year or two once they're out. So I'll let you two, beta test it for me and let me know in a year or so. All right, let's talk about a couple products that, maybe some good news here. Geffen is showcasing a new connectivity solutions at Pro Light and Sound. It's a new KVM switch. And I know all of you are excited because it's a KVM switch. Yay! Don't get too excited. But here's the thing. And the reason I brought this up, and Ronnie, we'll start with you on this, because in the article, it doesn't mention AVB or HD-based T. And let me back up a bit. It's an IP-based KVM switch, right? So it's going over the network. And what I found fascinating about this is it doesn't mention HD-based T or it doesn't mention AVB in it. So it's possible that Geffen is doing their own proprietary thing. And KVMs aren't sexy, right? It's not, HD 1080p or 4K video over a single piece of Cat5 or over the network. I get that. But it's an interesting step in another piece of equipment on the network, another piece of equipment that's going through switches. So the question is actually for all three of you, and Ronnie, like I said, we'll start with you on this. What else do we see going on the network? And maybe the better question is what don't we see? Maybe. So what? I guess we'll just ask like this: What do you think we're going to see on the network that maybe isn't there in the next year or two?
Everything, and by everything I mean irrigation.
Did you say irrigation?
Yes. We want everything on the network. You can already do control of irrigation through a Crestron system, but companies like Hunter are going to say, hey, we want our stuff to be able to be controlled via IP and command instead of only being able to be controlled by relays. Motor controls, shade controls, intercom systems, everything is going to go IP. And that is what is going to make it more difficult for Crestron and AMX to stay relevant. I am a Crestron programmer. I do dabble in AMX. I added it. I'm not great at it, but I see where my trade is getting long in the tooth. The wave is heading towards shore. I see the shore. It's a ways off, but it's coming. And what's going to bring that is everything going IP. Shade controls, drape controls, motor controls, lifts, fireplace controls. Everything is starting to get a NIC card because it's cheap and it makes sense. So I'm excited that Geffen is doing KVMs, not so much because it's IP based, but because I'd like an alternative to Xantec and Kramer and some of these low-end things. I've always said Extron should do KVMs because I want something bulletproof. Aiton and some of these other low-end IT companies. I want good quality products, and I know Geffen will bring that.
Yeah.
So I wish Geffen would do something a little bit more conventional first, but I'm eager to see where they go with this. But yeah, I think everything is going to go IP. That's just the way it's headed. Even lamps, we're going to have IP-based lamps so that we can control them from an iPad.
So no more clapper. It'll all be on the iPad.
Why not?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Josh, you're not only an AV guy, but you're an old IT guy. Old, good Lord, you're like 10.
Okay, sure, whatever, Grandpa.
That's what I feel like. Where are we going with this? Like Ronnie said, is it pretty much going to be everything on the network?
Well, what you're seeing is the convergence of the IT world starting to take shape in the form of hardware in our side of the industry. The reason I say that is because I love KVM switches. You're like, KVM switches aren't sexy, and I'm like, this is badass. Because no, you got to stop and think about this, Tim. IT and AV are merging so much that I would not be surprised if in the future there was a certification that was literally IT AV all in one cluster, meaning that you knew a huge amount about IT and networking and AV.
I'm sure somebody somewhere is working on it.
Probably. But the thing is that this is a bigger deal than people think it is, because if you look at what is it, Blue Bolt, Todd? Blue Bolt makes like the IP-based controlled power systems, right? So you imagine this.
Yes, I
love
love it.
You have a KVM like piece like this in Geffen, okay? You've got a very elaborate rack in a client's home, like someone like Todd would work with. And there's somebody who may has a $3 million home automation system that includes everything under the sun. Okay, so you have a client that you did an installation for in Los Angeles, but Todd lives in like New Jersey. Why will Todd fly out there to do support when if he has a KVM switch and he's got the proper network monitoring equipment and VPN stuff set up and Blue Bolt power in that rack, he can go inside of that rack without ever physically putting boots on the ground or wheels on the ground. So a KVM switch is a bigger deal than you think. It gives you remote access to large installations without having to send people out to do support.
Okay, yeah, I didn't. You're right. I didn't think of that. So that's a good point. Todd, is Josh right here? I mean, is this a bigger deal than I think? And also, what else are we going to see on the network?
Actually, you just opened my eyes to to this KVM switch. That's actually a great solution. Yes, with the Blue Bolt, it's been great for us, and obviously with Crestron as well, to reduce truck rolls to go to customers' homes. Remotely rebooting the system or even monitoring the IP addresses remotely to find out what's online and what's offline has been a great success for us. Also, it's been something that we find out before the customer finds out, so we could fix it before it becomes a problem. With this product, I'm waiting to see. I'll definitely try it out. But with the network, yeah, everything is going on the network. That's why I've been putting a lot of time into learning networking and picking the right network products that fit our, industry. Like recently, actually just been spending some time trying to learn and work with Access Networks, because we heard they're the muscle of the AV world and they know a lot about our products. Originally, I was working like anybody. We started off with just basics, the Apple Airport Extremes and Apple products. Then I learned, that doesn't work well for our systems. But it's great to install. It's fun. It's easy. But handshaking issues are a problem with iOS devices. And from that, I've learned. Again, it's like starting business all over again. I'm making the mistakes, and I was learning, and I started buying all new products for my personal home and testing it out. And little by little, you realize that networking is 50% of our business at this point, at least my business with the products I'm using. And, it's going to stay, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And there's going to be more going through our network. And we have to sit there and figure out ways to make it work and products to, offer networking-wise to make this happen and keep something robust as, what's happening in this industry.
Yeah, speaking of your home, one of the stories we're doing this week, it actually has to do with Todd's house, and it was a very nice piece. Go ahead.
That one's not my home. That's actually, we did two case studies.
Okay.
My home is the one coming with residential systems. This project was a project we did for a client in New York City. So they bumped in back and forth with each other since both of them were happening at the same time.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I want to let you introduce the article first, but I've been dying to ask Todd a question. So if you would, Tim, please.
Sure, shoot.
No, I was let you introduce the article first to our listeners.
Well, we're going to talk about Todd's. They redid Todd's house and worked with a good friend of all of ours, Rich Fregosa. And according to Rich, I think he said he got a half an hour's sleep a night. But kind of walk me through the process, Todd, and how this all came about, because Crestron did a case study. People have written articles. Like I said, Rich, who is a friend of all of ours, he posted online some of the pictures of the interface, which I sent him a message and said, I'm less than worthy to even be in the same room with any of y'all. So how did this all come about with the case study and everything else?
Well, we're speaking about my home at this point.
Yes, sir.
Two case studies with them, like I said. Okay. Well, how it all started is about a year and a half ago. Rich spoke with me about Crestron, and he said to me, he basically sold me on Crestron and offering it solely as a product for my business and my model. So it started, we were building a new home. When I was building this home, I was figuring out what products to put in it. And from there, Rich said, Crestron all the way. He said to me, we'll get the programming in there. Let's start off. No problem. We started off with one system, very light system, an MC3, 4x100, and no video switching, just a TSW, an iPad, and iPhone control. From there, I got more educated in working with Crestron, tested it out, started selling it, and I realized that we need to sell bigger and better products through the Crestron line. From there, Rich basically said, this is what we need, this is what we should do, and we basically went back and forth, and I said, you know what, let's tear this whole rack out, let's do it again. A year on the anniversary, when we did the original install, Rich and I, we noticed that we just redid the whole rack. Now, this is a huge investment for me, because we had to do, I have about 16 zones of audio.
Holy
cow, so dude. It's, 2 floors. We're talking about running a DM 8x8, 8 TVs, and 8 sources. Now going upstairs to another DM, a video switch actually, and the system is extremely robust and it takes a lot of time. Lighting control all through the house, and again, it grew little by little, the lighting. Then we had HVAC, the new Yale locks, and what else was the shading. So we had to get all this done within probably a week and a half to 2 weeks. Now, with that product being bought, I was speaking just with one of the marketing people, Joyce and Delia, because I was doing a review on the locks, and they said, hey, could we actually come to your home and film and take photos? I said, absolutely, that'd be great. Now the pressure's on. Now in my own home, I got to do everything perfect. I have to make the rack behind it look perfect, which I never like to do in my own home because I'm always tearing it apart and re-putting it together. Yeah. And all this started. So Rich, of course, I'm anal. I have extreme OCD. And we went through the GUI design. Now, he had his own GUI developed that he was comfortable with. I basically went to him and said, we're going to trash that. He agreed. He's like, it's yours. Whatever you want, we'll make it happen. Now, with him saying that, he didn't realize how crazy I am and how many hours he would be working to develop a brand new design from top to bottom. So he spent endless hours on going through every little design aspect, from the homepage to when you're entering into the sources, how each GUI is going to look in the resolution, backgrounds, and obviously I'm not going to bother him and control how things are going to control. Rich is an expert on that and switching and programming and all that end. And I didn't even listen. Whatever he wanted to do, he did that. Yeah. But with all the design aspects, he was up. And yeah, the 30 minutes of sleep sounds like a little bit too much sleep he had. Probably about within 15 minutes of sleep a day. It was honestly a very stressful project for the both of us with the timeline we were allotted. because my basement did flood.
Oh.
Sump pump stopped working, and all the product that was down there was in the rack and had to be taken out and then reinstalled again. So on his end and my end, that made it very stressful because we weren't able to test the product throughout. And once we reinstalled the product, that's where it came down to 3 days. We had 3 days, right, from a fully built rack, pretty much, to test the system out and get it implemented with the program and get the system fully tested for Crestron to come. Now, their standards are extremely high, and they've seen the best systems in the best homes. So while that's happening, where I'm remodeling the house, I'm buying, painting, putting LED lights in, physical light fixtures, we're going nuts in this house to do everything for them to come, because to be honest, I was nervous. My home, I felt, wasn't like the homes they've seen, and I had to make it kind of halfway or a crumb like what Crestron standard was, for the aesthetic of a home and the products. Now, with everything happening, at the end result, we got everything working. Literally 4 or 5 hours before Crestron even showed up. Everything worked beautifully. Everything looked perfect. And again, that's what I feel on the GUI design. And it might be different for someone else's taste. But when the Crestron came, and this is actually a quote from the art director of Crestron, he says he has never seen a GUI design as pretty as the one that Rich and myself developed during those few days, which to me was the biggest compliment I probably ever received since I started my business. And I'm sure to Rich, it was huge.
Well, yeah, like I said, I saw pictures of it on Facebook, and it was one of those, I'm not worthy to even be anywhere near y'all. So it was very nice. Mr. Josh, go ahead and ask your question now.
Well, first of all, I'd say two things. One, absolutely, congratulations, Todd. It's a really beautiful honor, to be a part of the industry, and to then be a part of the marketing aspect of the industry. That it's your home, so I'm happy, really happy for you.
Thank you.
Which wants to stand alone, which makes me feel even like a little bit more of a butthole for what I'm about to say. And
sure.
I just wanted to congratulate you first. And I feel like I'm about to commit some unforgivable act of blasphemy when it comes to control and automation in the industry, because I'm sitting here before you, and I know Tim's a fan of Crestron, because God knows if you've listened to AVWeek once in any given week, you've heard the word Crestron come out of his mouth.
Sometimes bad things.
And Ronnie, well, you're a Crestron programmer, so I feel like I'm almost like David trying to take on Goliath here, but why? Why Crestron? It's Crestron. Now, I understand that I'm a rookie in the industry, but when I got involved, I went to school, they taught us on RTI and Control 4, and I got quickly informed that part of the reason why was that Crestron is rock solid. It's very, very, very customizable on the GUI, and it's got two-way feedback. Now, those are the two things that I was taught are primarily what keeps people in the realm of Crestron. But Crestron, to me, and I'm sorry, Andy, because essentially the statement I'm about to make is saying that you're out of a job, but the Crestron systems require very specialized programming, and I don't understand why, because with the line of sensor arrays that URC, Universal Remote Control, the URC like MRX10 is a tenth of the cost of probably some of the entry-level stuff that Crestron does. If you put all the over 700 modules that URC has had developed with extra vegetables, there's an amazing number of things that you can control. And of course, URC works with all the Lutron controls, and then now that URC is talking about Flex, about this just as customizable GUI language that's going to be easier to understand than a Crestron platform, I don't understand why everyone is still elevating Crestron to be like the end-all, be-all godfather of home automation when there's platforms out there, and there's 10 others that you can go to Cedia and see on any given day of the show that arguably can do a lot of what Crestron can do, probably 90%. And I imagine that the answer I'm going to get is that the 10% is what really matters. But I just see that Crestron is not going to be quite the powerhouse that they are now compared to an industry that doesn't have any competition. I guess maybe it's not that they're not going to be as good, it's just that they're going to have some serious competition, and there's other platforms out there that are more affordable by far that can do probably 95% of what they can do.
As the senior Crestron person, I think I should be the one to handle that.
I was gonna start with you, Ronnie, but go ahead.
First of all, one of the things you mentioned about URC, which I've dabbled in a little bit, they have 700 modules, and Crestron's got many modules too. But one of the key differences here is that with companies like Extron and URC, you have to use their modules. With companies like Crestron and AMX, you can create your own modules, you can use their modules, and with Crestron, you can modify Crestron's modules because they're not locked down.
Yeah.
Crestron, why I like Crestron more than AMX. AMX speaks a C++-ish language and Java. Crestron speaks a C++ language-ish and Visual Basic, plus it has its own proprietary language called Simple, and it's got a wizard that's similar to URC. And I can import and export from any platform to any other. And that's just the control. Crestron has some key things in what's called digital media. And what makes digital media the ultimate solution is it's a great big card cage. And this isn't a new concept. It was started with Grass Valley years and years ago, where you have a card cage and you pick the input card you want and the output card you want. And if your input card becomes obsolete, you take it out and put in the cool one that's new and current. And that is huge. Plus, programming Crestron switchers is uber easy. And this is going to help put me out of a job real fast. But if you want to send input whatever to an output, you just tell the output, you just send it the number. That's it. If I want to send input 5 to output 7, I just send a 5 to output 7 and it does it. Yeah. It's super quick, super easy, super powerful, and it enables me to do things. There's things I can do in a Crestron system that I cannot do in an AMX system. And I get into this a lot. For example, some Crestron processors allow multiple LANs for the processor. The processor can reside on multiple networks at the same time. I used a system like that back in 2007 to simultaneously detect whether Chevron or Worley Parsons was using their video conference system, automatically detect which system was using it, and then automatically switch their video conference system to the correct network. Automatically, the user didn't have to do anything. There's no way to do that with URC Control 4, and that's just one of countless real-world examples that I've run into where I say, you know what, I can do something better with Crestron than I can with anything else, and that is what justifies the price difference right there.
Yeah.
Well, Ronnie, I'm going to piggyback on what you said, just because I feel like I could answer for Joshua from experience on the Crestron, why I picked that product. And what you have said is absolutely the reason why I stay with it, and I've been supporting it so much, because it is everything you said, and it's more. From where you're standing is you're an expert. You know the systems in and out, and I praise you for that. And it takes a lot of time to do what you are doing. But with Joshua, what you were stating is, why, all these other systems can do it. All these other systems come close. And you know what? I was in your shoes. A year and a half ago, I was in your shoes. I was selling Total Control. I was offering, we worked with Control 4. We started dabbling into Savant, finding out information about Savant, working with them. And you know what? We wanted a quick solution for programming. We wanted that copy and paste and drag. But that's what it is. It's a copy and paste and drag. It's generic. It's basic. It's not offering a solution really for the client. Now, I'm going to say some things, again, towards certain manufacturers, and it's probably going to make me look bad in a sense, but I really want to help you. And I'm sorry that what I'm going to say about these product lines is going to come out harsh or come out where they're going to get offended, but it's the truth, and I apologize, and it could be something I am doing or something my company is doing. Just want to make that clear. Again, with working with brands like Total Control, working with other brands like Control 4, and the integration with other products. And all right, I'm watching what I'm saying, so I apologize for the pauses.
That's all right.
We're dealing with third parties, just like dealing with any third party in business or hiring subcontractors, whatever the case is you have a handshaking issue no matter what. When changes are made, now you have to go to 2 places versus 1 place to get an answer or to get a fix. Now with Crestron, you go to 1 company and they'll have the fix for you with the lighting, shading, locks, and so far, with switching, audio, and the list goes on. Now, with Total Control and other brands like that, my company literally went with customer service completely almost plummeted. And Jeremy and other people I work with and I'm very close with know that I was scared at a point because I was using products that did not work. The service calls were outrageous. The products were failing. Like the media servers from their companies that they were offering, the processors were locking up. A lot of things were happening and my customers were very upset, and I cannot bill my customers for a product that does not work. And our company was nonstop on service calls. We were constantly going there to fix antennas for RF interference, moving them. In New York City, it's a cluster of interference, and it might be different in certain other areas. But I'm just saying out of experience, Josh, that I almost fell to the ground. Like my company almost went to its knees based on customer service because these products were failing and customers were very upset with us. I took a chance and I worked with those companies because I thought it'd be easier and more profitable, but it actually hurt me and hurt my company. And this is from experience. When I went with Crestron, yes, it cost a lot more. Yes, there is a lot more to do. Yes, it comes with a lot more experience. And yes, the dollar signs that are involved with it, it can scare people, and it also can scare salesmen to sell it. But you know what? After dealing with it for a while and living with the system, I have to say this, and this is the God's honest truth, and it's not anything to do with sales or money at all. Crestron has been the best decision that I have made for a company in a year and a half, that it has skyrocketed us in so many different levels. Customers are ecstatic. Service calls are dropped to a minimum, or if even any. There has been profits, and that any company would be amazed by how much profits we increased. We increased 193% as a business for last 2 years marking, and it's just been amazing what they have done for us. And Crestron is customer service, Crestron's products, Crestron's when there's a product that doesn't work, instantaneously gets sold to customer's house. Living with the product, right, and personally living with the product and growing the product from such a small system into such a large system. Now again, that's my money. Why would I want to invest in something that doesn't work? I have never done that before. Took so much of my hard-earned money, my personal money, and invested it into a system like what I have in my home. Again, I'm not wealthy. I don't have the budgets my customers have. I don't have the money that they have, but I did invest it into my home because I am ecstatic by it. The DM switches, taking out a little input card when something new comes out, put a new one in 4K, making those changes where I don't have to buy a whole big piece of equipment. Yeah. With companies like Total Control, Control 4, you have to replace everything. You have to replace all that product when things change. Now, yes, it's cheaper, but it's not future-proof. It's not going to last forever. Crestron has made their products where you're making little changes and investing a little bit of money into those little output cards or input cards. Same thing goes with Swamp and numerous products that they offer. It really is a product that when you're investing into it, you're getting every dollar well spent. And to go to sleep at night, not waking up with text messages every morning or emails saying that out of nowhere while I'm doing other jobs, I need you here, Todd. I don't know what's going on. There's a problem. That hurts me. Not because of any reason, because I feel like my ego's been damaged. No, it hurts me because I want to keep these customers forever. I don't want to give my customers away. I really, really value their business. And now with products like Crestron and Blue Bolt, my business has gotten more successful, and I am extremely satisfied, and my stress levels have completely went down to a minimal.
Okay.
And that's what Crestron offers for every dollar.
Now, hang on. Let me put my 2 cents in. When I started at the college that I previously worked, they were a big Extron house, and actually, we had 1 or 2 Crestron rooms on our campus, and a guy came into my office who ended up being a very good friend of mine. Kevin Iselli was my Crestron rep. He was the guy he's the guy who sold me on Crestron, honestly, and his thing, and it goes to Ronnie's point and goes to Todd's point. One of his big selling points was this. He said, why would you spend a comparable amount of money? Because honestly, at the time, and that's when the MPS, around the time the MPS first came out, why would you spend roughly the same amount of money and not be able to do certain things? Whether it's Control 4 or it's URC or it's Aurora, all really good companies. But like Ronnie said, there are just so many things that you can do with Crestron that you simply cannot do with some of these other control companies. I don't have experience with AMX. I've talked about that before. I've gotten to know some folks over there, and I'm trying to learn that just so I can speak more intelligently about it. But that's Crestron is who I've settled on, because it's just so robust, and there's just so many things that you can do with it that with the other ones that I've had experience with, I simply can't. So, Mr. Stackhouse.
Well, first of all, that was a lot of feedback. That was a pretty significant answer variety. So just let me say thank you. Let me clarify that the role that I try to play in the social media sphere in our industry is that I try to be the voice of the rookie, because that's who I am. If you look at AVWeek, or maybe the AV rant with Tom Andry, or the AV shop talk that Jason Griffin and Nate Schneider have started, and any other media that's out there, or any other blogs, Commercial Integrator, or any magazines that are out there, there isn't a voice in the media sphere in our industry besides me that I'm aware of for people who are just getting into the industry, who are going to have the same kinds of questions that I just asked. And they need to be asked, because if the only voice that's out there is the voice of people who just get it, then the people who don't will never be elevated. They'll never be informed. So that's where I come from in asking that question. I certainly have respect for Crestron as a company. I think they're amazing. I drool over some of the specs on their products, and I do. But I also have to just ask questions like that for reasons such as trying to be the representative voice of the rookie, the guy who just got into the industry, who doesn't understand it all. That being said, I also have to point out, though, that the 2 talking points that I hear repeatedly with Crestron is scalability and robustness, and that's what it boils down to for everyone. But you have to eventually stop and also acknowledge that you have to ask who your client base is. Not every integrator in the industry is large enough to have clients like Todd, who works for like football players, or big universities, or big corporations. Some integrators, and probably the majority, not the minority of integrators in our industry, work in the middle of nowhere, like Iowa, where they don't have people who have huge amounts of money, farmers who have to put money into, their combiners and stuff like that, rather than their home automation. And so it just depends upon where you're at. If you're a small integrator, you may have to think about buying a PC and not an Apple. And that's the argument that I keep hearing, is that Crestron is the Apple. It costs more, but it works just like an Apple. And believe me, the reason I had trouble with this PC today that's sitting in front of me, and I'm using my iPad right now, ironically, is because Apple works.
Yeah.
And I get that. I just, I guess I just feel the need to point that out. And the way I was coming from with all that was that on the residential side, and Todd can understand this, we typically have to work within a budget. And if you're working with new construction homes, the rest of the contractors, the HVAC guys, the plumbers, the interior designers, they all see us as threats. They think that we're going to take money out of their budget. And so having a product in your lineup that costs less money makes you less of a threat. And if you can actually give them more better AV gear, better amplification, better speakers, and other things like that, I would rather do that than I would give them something. When URC, as an example, could give them 90% of what Crestron could, I would rather do that and put them with better AV gear in their home than I would to try to put all the money into the automation and then give them crappy AV gear for their daily use. So there's just so many points that kind of stimulated me to putting this out there.
Joshua, I wanted to address something you mentioned there about the people in the rural communities, and why would somebody in a rural community that's maybe a farmer, for example, as you mentioned, where they're concerned about their combiners, why would they benefit from Crestron versus, let's say, URC or Control 4? I have an organic garden. I'm an urban gardener. Wish I had more land. I'd like to have an apiary raise bees. But I have possums that like to eat my strawberries. And so to get rid of this problem, I won't use chemicals, pesticides, or poisons in my garden. It's organic. That's what it means. And so what I did was I connected motion sensors to my Crestron system and connected my Crestron system to my irrigation. So whenever possums enter my yard, the motion sensors pick them up and scare them off by turning on the sprinklers. And so green solutions like that, using moisture sensors, a weather station, allows me to manage my garden. My garden automatically adjusts for the amount of rainfall that I'm getting, and I don't have to go out and stop the sprinklers. So this is, again, another reason why I like Crestron. But before we go off, I didn't want to leave Todd's beautiful audio untouched. Todd did something in audio that I thought should be mentioned and pointed out. I'm an audio geek. I can't help it. Normally, I don't have much good to say about ceiling speakers. When I'm looking at a display on the wall, I don't want to hear sound coming from up above. It's disorienting. Most ceiling speakers have tin can back boxes and sound like the music's coming out of a soup can, because it is. However,
yeah.
I noticed that Todd's home selected the Paradigm ceiling speaker. And I thought I would point out that the Paradigm back boxes are MDF. Now, MDF isn't my favorite material, it's my second favorite, but soup cans are my least favorite. I think they're the worst sounding back box in the world. They ring at every volume. If you look at how a driver works, it pushes sound out towards the audience, which is where we want it, but some sound goes back into the box and dings off of a tin can, and it bounces around in there and hits the driver again, and even worse when they're symmetrical. If you look at the Paradigm back boxes, they're asymmetrical and fiberboard. So the Paradigm product, although it's not the most expensive, is an excellent choice. And I can only imagine that the audio there is actually pretty delightful, considering that they're ceiling speakers. And I don't think in our industry there's enough audio understanding. I think 90% of the people don't understand basic physics. It's really, audio is very simple. It's physics and geometry, nothing else.
Yeah.
But so few people in the industry take the time to study either and then correlate it to sound that it's a rare and refreshing thing when I see somebody who's chosen a system that actually works in harmony with the basic laws of physics. And so I commend you for that, Todd. I didn't get a chance to do that earlier.
Thank you so much. That's a huge compliment coming from you. And I basically treat audio. I was a musician. I played guitar, and that's why I'm so passionate about audio. Is I want everything to sound like it was coming from live experiences. And I know what that sounds like, coming from a studio atmosphere to a live atmosphere. And that's what I try to bring into every project. And sometimes you only could work with what the designer tells you what you could work with. And fortunately, the customer was very passionate about, listen, we want better speakers. I don't want small speakers that sounds like too tinny, like you were saying, or I don't want this, I don't want that. And we had the customer in our corner, but also the designer wanted something a little more aesthetically pleasing. And Paradigm was perfect for that solution.
Yeah. All right, we are about out of time. Real quickly, I'll put the link up on the show notes. If you are creative in any way, shape, or form, I think I might have my 7-year-old draw something for this. You can design the Infocom 14 T-shirt. Yay! If you win, you can get 50 free T-shirts. And hey, you can stay 2 nights at the LVH Hotel, which used to be the Hilton, which is the hotel connected to the Las Vegas Convention Center. So, like I said, we'll put a link up on the website, and you can check that out if you are so inclined. Thank you, all 3 of you, so much for joining us. Ronnie Anne Spang. Ronnie is an AV programmer extraordinaire. Thank you, ma'am, so much for joining us.
It's always an honor to be invited here.
Where can people find you if you'd like? Or do you not want them to find you?
Well, it depends. If I owe you money, disregard the next part. If you owe me money, you can find me at ronnie@scanview.net is my email, or on LinkedIn. Ronnie Spang CTS is my LinkedIn, or my cell 562-756-4586. But if I owe you money, forget that.
She doesn't exist.
Yeah, and if you have a recommendation or something nice to say, please share it. If you're disappointed with me for some reason, no need to do anything.
Understand. Josh Stackhouse is from AMS, sir. Where can people find you?
Pretty much type in Stackhouse AV into Google, and that's me. I'm pretty consistent on the internet. And you can find me more often than not on Twitter with the same handle, Stackhouse AV.
All right. And last but not least, Mr. Todd Anthony Puma from the Source Home Theater. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me on the show today.
Absolutely. And where can people find you?
You can find me at www.thesourcehometheater.com or on Twitter at, I don't even know my Twitter handle, actually. So
it's Todd Anthony Puma. It's the longest handle on all of the internet, I think.
No, Adrian Boyd did. His is the AV CAD guy, I think. So, and he has underscores.
Oh, well, thank you, Joshua. For,
so it's Todd Anthony Puma.
Sorry, I didn't know the handle.
There you go.
You got to look out for my Red Brand brother.
Oh yeah, and you can find both of those gentlemen on the Red Band on AV Shout. So. All right, my name is Tom Albright. Don't follow me on Twitter, but go by the website if you would, please. The fine folks that put it together did an awfully good job. AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv, you'll find this program and a host of others. We'll be posting a brand new State of Control, which is our control and automation show with Steve Greenblatt and Rich Fregosa. We have a new marketing and social media show called AV Social coming, the new episode of that coming out. Live Life, the Ed Tech Show, and a host of others. So, yeah, go by the website if you would, please. Oh, and next week we have a brand new show premiering with a couple crazy gentlemen. I think it's the show with the best hair in the AV industry. Yeah, I'll just say that. It's about AV apps. So they'll be reviewing some apps for the AV industry. So check that out if you would, please. AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. That's all the time we have for AV Week.